Hi guys, thank you so much for joining me today. This is going to be a palette collection video where I'm going to show you all the palettes I have in my current makeup collection. I have recently become obsessed with watching these types of videos. I will have a couple of my favorites linked in the description box. They're just so relaxing to watch. It's fun to kind of be nosy and look into people's personal collection and just hear what they have to say about specific palettes. I recently expanded my palette collection by quite a bit. I wouldn't say I doubled it in the past year, but I got very close, and so I would like to just show you everything I have. This is not a palette. Why do I have this in here? That's a bronzer. So I'm just gonna go through and show you everything. I'm gonna start by brand if I can. I think I only have one or two different brands that I own more than one palette from. I'll start with the Anastasia Beverly Hills ones. This is the Sultry palette. This is my most recent Anastasia Beverly Hills purchase. And if you can see, I do have quite a few pans on here. I have pan on Fresh, Cinder, Twig, Pearl, Teak, and Ember, and I'm really close to hitting pan on Dystopian if you can see that. This is a really pretty palette. I love the shades, I love the number of shimmers. I do like palettes that have more shimmers than mattes for the most part, unless it's a brand that I specifically love their mattes. I guess I don't really understand these two warmer shades up in the corner here, Bloom and Birch, but for the most part I think this is a really nice palette. I can't really tell if this is like a limited edition palette because I think this is still on the ABH website. You might still be able to get your hands on this. This might also just be available at TJ Maxx or whatever, but I really like this palette. The other Anastasia Beverly Hills palette I have is the Modern Renaissance. This one is also very well loved. I don't feel that these two berry shades here, Venetian Red and Love Letter, I don't think those perform very well. They are quite patchy. And this is one of my older palettes. I bought this at the end of 2016, and the performance is a little bit worse than I remember it being. I do find that it creases on me a little bit by the end of the day. I think I might just try to get as much use as I can out of it this year, and then probably declutter it, and if I really feel like I'm left wanting, then I'll repurchase it. But yeah, I think this is a lovely palette, and this was really a game changer when it came out. I think it really brought warms back to the forefront. And yeah, this is just, you know, an old favorite of mine. Another old favorite is this one from Stila. This is the Eyes Are the Windows shadow palette, and it's the Soul version. And if you can see, this is kind of a cool toned version. I was watching an old palette collection video from Kitsch Snitch, and she mentioned how this palette was like the Urban Decay Naked 2, but better. It wasn't as sparkly, and I do agree with her on that. I do love a lot of these shades. The only one I don't like is this one right here. It's in the shade Character, and if you can see that, it has a like hard pan on it, and it's a matte with some shimmer in it, and I just don't think it performs well. It really doesn't have any like payoff to it. Of course it swatches fine right there, but if I try to pick it up with a brush, every time I try to use it on my eyes, it takes forever to build up. It gets hard pan really quickly, and I don't know, it's just my least favorite shade. It always has been like that. But these mid-tone satin shades here are really pretty. I just really enjoy this palette a lot. Whenever I first bought this, it was one of the few palettes that I owned, so I used it a ton. But this is probably like 5 or 6 years old, and I'm not sure how long palettes are supposed to last. So this might be another one where once I get to a certain amount of use on it, maybe once I hit pan on a few more shades, maybe I'll declutter it, and if I feel like I really want it, I'll repurchase a new one. Now let's move on to Urban Decay. I have two palettes from that brand. This first one is a newer palette to me. This is the Urban Decay Born to Run palette. And if you can see, I really haven't used this a lot. One interesting thing I did recently was I had on a purple liquid lipstick. I think it was the shade Soft Lilac from Anastasia Beverly Hills. And I took this satiny purple shade and I put that on top of the liquid lipstick, and it kind of added a tiny bit of a sheen to it, a little bit of a metallic element without being too sparkly or shimmery. And it actually looked really pretty. It's such an easy concept that I never thought to do, and I think I will do that more in the future. To be honest, I really don't feel anything when I look at these purples and oranges over here. This reminds me a lot of the Queen of Hearts palette from Colored Rain, which I also have. Both the Anastasia Beverly Hills Modern Renaissance and the Colored Rain Queen of Hearts palette have a lot of oranges and purples in them, and I really loved those palettes, but I think I'm just kind of going back to more cool or neutral shades, or just more interesting shades. Purples and oranges I haven't been attracted to as much as of late. So this half of the palette I kind of lost interest in, but this half I really like. I love these like aquas and greens and blues and the charcoal gray. And this was one of those palettes that it would keep going on sale for like, you know, 30–40% off. And I would miss the sale, and then I would kick myself for not getting it because everyone was talking about it. So I finally got my hands on it once it was on sale again on the Ulta website. And right as soon as it came in the mail, I ended up leaving on a trip for about 5 weeks. And I came back and I was just focusing on other shadows, and then I started a new Pan Those Eyeshadows project for 2020, and this kind of just fell to the wayside. I really have not used this enough. It's just one of my least used palettes right now. And the other Urban Decay Naked palette I have is pretty much the same idea. It's the Urban Decay Naked 3. I recently purchased it towards the end of last year, and then I really haven't given it a lot of attention, even though I do love this color story. I love these kind of neutral, cool-toned pinks and the grays and the taupes in here. This is definitely my type of color story, and I do have a pan on this shade here. This is Dust. I used it as an inner corner highlight. It is a bit chunky and sparkly, so I don't love to use it all over the lid. Someone mentioned in the comments that I could use it on top of a cream shadow, especially like a bronzy shadow stick, and that sounds really interesting. I purchased this years and years after the hype died down for this palette, and I would like to use it a little bit more. It's once again one of my more neglected palettes. I have two eyeshadow palettes from Milani. I have both the Bold Obsessions and the Most Loved Mattes palette. This is the Most Loved Mattes palette. I had randomly chosen quite a few of these shades for my Pan Those Eyeshadows project. In fact, all three of the shades that I've panned in were from that project pan. But once again, it's got a lot of purples and oranges in it, and I think I'm just kind of over those right now. I'm not saying I'll never come back to them, but I was really a big fan of those shades for a long time, and I feel like I'm kind of going back to other shades or just playing with other colors. I'm really glad I own this. This is like $15 to $20 depending on where you buy it, and I think it's a great deal. And I think this is a really nice all matte palette if you're looking for one. For the Milani Bold Obsessions palette, I think I like this one a little bit more just because it has more variety in tones, in my opinion at least, and it also has a lot of really nice shimmery and satin shades. This one in the middle here, this Gold Getter shade, is very chunky though. I don't think it's the best quality. When I want a really nice gold shade, I'll go for the one in the Queen of Hearts palette that I'll show you in a little bit. But overall, I think this is a really nice palette, and I am currently trying to hit pan on this slate shade right here. And while I have the palette open every morning, I've been using this Camp Pink Straight shade to set my eyeshadow primer. I think if I were to buy another one, I would probably buy the Sultry palette just because I'm really in the mood for cool tones. But yeah, I think this is a really nice palette. I have two Tarte eyeshadow palettes, and they're very, very different. The first one is the Tartelette in Bloom palette. This is a nice neutral palette. It has a row of cool tones, a row of neutral or warmer tones, and then a row of like pinky tones, reddish tones. And then the other one is the Make Believe in Yourself palette, which is all shimmers except for one shade, and it's a bunch of colorful glitter shades, so they're very different. I have hit pan on a lot of matte shades in this palette. I love how the mattes perform. I think this is a really nice palette. I did randomly choose a lot of shades in here to hit pan on in my Pan Those Eyeshadows project, but even before I was randomly selecting it in that project, I was already using this a ton. I'm not as crazy about the shimmer shades. This one right here, Funny Girl, Firecracker, and Rocker, they're just okay. They're more like satins, and they just don't really give me the impact that I want. The shadows smell like vanilla, which is a really nice touch, and the mattes are super blendable and pigmented, and I really love this palette. The other one I haven't used as much. I recently got it whenever it was on sale. I think including shipping and everything, this was like under $20, which is a great deal. This was a limited edition palette that came out a couple years ago, and I didn't get it. I think I was on my no-buy whenever it came out, and I never saw it again, and then it randomly popped up on the website again at a discount, so I definitely snatched it up. I'm actually wearing this green shade here, Marvel, on my lids today. I love this blue. It's a very wearable blue for someone like me who doesn't wear blue a lot. If I want to take it up a notch, I can wear this one next to it. I love these purples. I love this taupe shade here. I love the purples. Pretty much every shade in here I love and can use in some way or another. The only shade I don't really use is this middle shade. This is like a highlighter shade. I don't know, it's just kind of chunky and very light, and it's just not something I use very often, but it is something I'll use on the inner corner. But yeah, every once in a while this will pop up on the Tarte website again on a discount. It might even be on the Tarte website now. So if you were looking for this, it is sort of available on occasion. The packaging on top of that is so pretty. I just really enjoy this palette and I'm glad I got the chance to get it. Let's get all of my single shadows out of the way, shall we? The majority of them are housed in this Clionadh Cosmetics stained glass Z palette, and it's enormous and I love it so much. The packaging on it is really pretty and I love being able to have most of my singles all in one place. I also have a couple Anastasia Beverly Hills quads here as well. You can buy these little quads here for $1 on the Sephora website. That's what I did. And I love being able to take these traveling, or if I want to make a quad to focus on. These are actually quads that I made in my Shop My Stash video for the past couple of months. I did a vlog on my first solo travel trip and I stayed in a tiny house and I showed you the look I created with this quad right here. And then these ones are all of my Tarte single shadows. These are really pretty. Normally they're very expensive, but I've been able to find them on sale for like $5. I think normally they're like $14. I have Revel, Dark Seas, Grind, and Poker Face. No, this is Grind and this is Poker Face. And I just really like these shadows. They're really pretty and I like having quads to kind of keep it a little bit more organized or create quads out of my singles. The rest of these are all a bunch of different brands. These two down here in the bottom are from Give Me Glow Cosmetics. I have a couple Clionadh shades. Most of the ones down on this bottom row are from Clionadh. And then I have some ColourPop and some Anastasia Beverly Hills mixed in there as well. And I have one random shade here from NYX. I go more into detail about color story and brands I prefer and brands I want to try and stuff like that in my single eyeshadow tag video that I did a couple months back. So I'll have that in the description box if you want more information about my singles, but I thought I would just touch on those briefly in this video. Okay, this one on top here is from e.l.f. It's the Modern Metals palette. These shimmers are really nice. They're not like the most metallic thing ever, but they are nice. They're kind of more of like a refined shade where it's like a little bit of a healthy sheen. It doesn't have like a super sparkly metallic type of finish. These mattes right here are fine, but these three give me a little bit of trouble. I'm actually trying to hit pan on this navy blue shade here, and I showed you in a recent Get Ready With Me video that this just does not work well for me. It's a little bit patchy and I really have to build it up, and anytime I try to blend it out it just goes away, it just disappears. So it takes a lot of building, a lot of work. That might just be a characteristic of all navy blue shades. I've never tried any other navy blues out there, but I'm assuming there has to be better formulas out there. I'm not sure. So this one is a little bit of a dud, but it, you know, as often as I use navy blue, it's fine to just have this one in my collection. But yeah, this is like a $12 palette. You get 10 shades. I think it's a really great deal and I love the packaging. It's very cute. Only have a handful left. This one in the corner, this little one, is from Smashbox. It was a limited edition palette. It was in collaboration with Vlada, and this is a mostly pink type of color story. I bought this and the Naked 3 palette from Urban Decay around the same time just because I was really craving having more pinks in my collection. It has some coppers, it has some, you know, pinkish taupes. It has some icy shades up there up top as well. Last summer I used this on my good friend. I did her bridal makeup for her wedding and I used a lot of these shades for her because she had a very purpley pink type of color story and that's what she wanted, and it ended up looking really nice. The shimmer once again is a little bit more refined. It's not super sparkly or super metallic. Here are some swatches. I don't think the lighting is doing them a lot of justice right now, but they're just really pretty pink shades. I especially love this shade right here, which is called Rose Rocked. I think it's such a gorgeous mid-tone pink shade, really pretty all over the lid. And for it being the same tone, for it being a mostly pinky palette, it does offer quite a lot of variety. And I love how small this is. I don't know if you can see on the packaging, but it does kind of shift as you turn it. Kind of got that like 3D effect, which is really cool. Yeah, I got this on sale on the Ulta website, I think for like 15 bucks, and I'm really glad I got it. I love this palette. I have this Colored Rain Queen of Hearts palette right here. I purchased this right after my no-buy year ended. It was on sale for like $35, and I remember really wanting this during my no-buy year. It was really tempting my no-buy. I did a 5 looks 1 palette video with this forever ago. This is right when I was kind of at the peak of my love for orange and purple shadows. The shade here, Ladyship, is not my favorite. It can be a little bit patchy, and I prefer the shade 143 from ColourPop. They're not exact shade dupes, but I do think the formula for the ColourPop one is a little bit better. Keep in mind if you're trying to pan this palette or hit pan on shades, Just know that the pans are very, very deep, and the mattes especially don't really offer a lot of kick up, so they do take forever to work through, which is a very good thing. It means you get a really good value for your money. I do really like the Color Green formula. I am considering picking up some singles from them in the future, or just buying more palettes from them. These two shades here, Royal Highness and Noblewoman, are two of my favorite shades in the palette. This was the gold I was talking about. If I want a really pretty gold that's not going to be super flaky on me and going to have a lot of really nice shine and reflect, I will go for this one. This is Your Majesty. I really love this shade Princess here. It's such a pretty purple crease shade. Just in general, I really like this palette a lot, and I'm super glad that I have it. This palette I purchased while I was visiting family in Italy. I think I got this in Pisa. They had like a Sephora there, and I went in and they had an end cap with some Zoeva. This was just before they started offering Zoeva on the Ulta website. I'm glad I picked it up over there though, because I don't think that this specific palette is available on the Ulta website. This is mostly grays. It has some pinks and purples. It leans very cool toned, and it is a little bit of a lighter palette. So it's perfect for someone like me who is fair but likes cool tones a lot. This shade right here, Handmade, is actually kind of interesting. It's a duochrome, but it's incredibly subtle. So it has a little bit of a light pink base and then a very light gold shift to it. It's very subtle though. I love taupes. I love grays. This is a really nice palette for me. I mix stitch by stitch and hour by hour. I use that to set my eyeshadow primer. So if you can see, those have some dips in there. And in general, I'm just really glad I have this palette. This was my first time trying the Zoeva formula, and I really like it. I especially like the mattes. This palette right here is the Creepy Cute palette. This is from Strobe Cosmetics. They are now called Shroud Cosmetics, and I think that this palette is still available. I love this palette. I think it's exceptional quality, especially considering how hard pastels are to formulate. I used this blue and this green here in a makeup looks inspired by art video, and I was doing an Andy Warhol look, so I used these two shades, and it really worked nicely for that. I really like this palette. I would like to try more shades from this brand. I am very interested in trying the Arcana palette. That one is the one I'm lusting after right now. However, I did a video recently where I kind of duped the palette with shadows that I already had in my collection, and while I didn't have exact dupes for a lot of the shades, I did have a lot of similar colors. So right now I don't think it's something I need to run out and grab, but it is something that I would still consider getting in the future. You can get all of these in singles now, so if there's only one or two shades from this palette that you're interested in, you can get them in single form. Really great quality. I want people to talk about Shroud Cosmetics more. I think they're a very underrated indie brand, and they're cruelty-free. Another indie brand is Give Me Glow Cosmetics. I have their Juicy Olive palette. I also have two of their singles that you saw in my Z palette, but this is divine. I'm wearing this on my eyes today, and I love it. I used this matte shade here, Vodkatini, and I used Cocktails, and they blended so well. This shade especially worked so much better than I thought it would. Gorgeous palette. I haven't used the shimmers at all, but I have swatched them quite a few times. I can't help myself, and it's such a gorgeous palette. I show you swatches of this and like more up close looks of the palette in my most recent haul video. I purchased this because I heard that the formula is very, very good, and I had tried a lot of different olive greens and none of them were really good. I don't know, they just weren't working for me. This is like the olive palette of my dreams. I love it so much. I think it's like $30 for this, and they do have sales on occasion. I know they have Black Friday sales also, but you get 6 humongous shades and they come out to be $5 a piece. That's a great deal, and I really like the packaging too. I think it's just such a fun palette, and I definitely have my eye on Give Me Glow Cosmetics. They have a couple other palettes and shades that I would like to try in the future. And this very last one is my most recent purchase. I bought it right at the tail end of last year. This is the Too Faced Chocolate Bonbons. It definitely is one of the more cool tone palettes that Too Faced offers. I've been using this shade here a lot, Black Currant, because I randomly chose it in my Pan Those Eyeshadows project. So I've been using this a lot more than the other shades, but I am just so excited to start dipping into this palette. I love that it has so many different options for cool tones. They have a true gray, they have a grayish pink, they have like a warmer brown, they have a cooler brown, they just have a lot of different crease shades for someone with my skin tone. And they do have some more fun pops of color like this hot pink here, this blue and the purple. For me, this extra large cream shade here and this extra large shimmery shade are really good for someone with my skin tone because I can use it to set my eyeshadow primer and I can use this as an inner corner highlight. I think this is such a pretty palette. I don't know why I didn't purchase it sooner. I'm definitely the type of person who waits forever and ever. I wait for the hype to die down, and if it's still something I want to buy, then I get it. And this was on sale on the Too Faced website, so I figured I might as well get it during the Black Friday sales. Gorgeous palette, super glad I own this. I did have the chocolate bar palette forever ago, and I decluttered it because I just didn't really love it, but this color story is way more up my alley. So that is everything. Those are all of my eyeshadow palettes. I hope you enjoyed kind of getting to peek through and look at all of the shadows that I own. I did set a rule for myself this year. I only want to bring in maybe a couple palettes, if that. I really want to slow down and enjoy the eyeshadows that I have. I have plenty to work with and plenty to play with. If I do feel like there is one shade that I really want or a palette that's really calling to me, I will get it. But I'm just trying to be very cognizant of what I'm bringing in because eyeshadows take forever to go through, and I already have so many beautiful palettes to play with, I might as well give them some love. Let me know what some of your favorite palettes have been recently, or some palettes that you've purchased recently that you're really excited about. I love watching eyeshadow palette and eyeshadow related content. It's one of my favorite types of things to watch. Let me know if you'd like me to do this with anything else in my collection. If you want to see like my blush collection or my highlighter collection or something, I'll try to do it in better lighting so that I can do swatches more. But in the meantime, that's everything I have. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye guys!